Greetings, welcome to video 5 of extracting and interpreting information about how Hillary Clinton talked about women across 3 roles: First Lady, U.S. Senator from New York, and Secretary of State. We've determined now that factors 1 and 3 are significant and then worth our time trying to interpret. So we're going to go back to the computer printout that actually tells us what factor 1 is, what factor 3 is. So we look at this and we look at first person. Obviously we look to see, and we actually set the code so that we don't see a number unless it's 0.4 or above, which is a big weight for each variable. So what we're going to do is, since there are a lot of variables here, we're going to open up a scratch pad, let's say a Word file. So you'll want to, let's say, open a Word file. Okay, and then move it here. And then for factor 1, we're going to keep a track of what the variables are and whether they're positive or negative. So factor 1, positive, is first person and reasoning and public. Oops. No, public is negative, okay. So first person, reasoning, interactive, inquiry, forceful, contingent, and uncertain. These are a lot of variables to deal with. So we may want to just focus our attention mainly on the ones that are the largest. So first person is 0.65, 6, and I'm sorry, first person is 0.656 right here. And reasoning is 0.634, and interactive is 0.613. By the time we get to inquiry, you get to 5.37. Okay, 0.537, and let's stop there. So let's just call it positive here. So this language, at this pole of factor 1, we can say she's using I, me, and my a lot. She is reasoning, which means she's leading readers through a decision space, trying to get them to reason according to a pathway of decision making. Here she's been very interactive, means lots of second person, not just first person up here, but second person. Lots of inquiry. So she's appealing to the curiosity of her audience. And we won't go below 0.537 because, frankly, it's very hard to interpret more than 3 or 4 variables at once. But these are the most important ones for this pool. And for the negative pool of factor 1, we have syntactic complexity, which I think we can ignore for now. We don't have to worry about too much. Public. Let's do public here. Okay, and academic. And let's see, public is 0.5736, negative 5736, and academic is negative 588. Actually 576, 588. And let's keep it there. Okay. So we're making our lives easy by just looking at the few of the highest variables. So if you're high on factor 1, Hillary is reasoning a lot, and she's interactive, and she's trying to build curiosity. Now, this takes a long time to do, but we might try to give a name to these 4 variables as a strategy if you did all these things together. And what would we call this? We'd call it, let's say, being, since reasoning has a lot to do with argument, but interactive and reasoning could also have to do with appeals and inquiry curiosity. So we could say positive means interactive arguer. Okay, in other words, we need to interpret. We need to interpret what this is. So let's just call, if you're high on factor 1, you're an interactive arguer. And if you are low, in other words, very negative, at the bottom, if you're public and academic, we might call that being a wonk. You're very wonky. You're just talking in big words and big public words, okay? Academic words are oftentimes very abstract. This is much more interactive in reasoning. Oops, we want to call this interactive arguer. Okay, and wonk. So you have to get used to listing all these variables and try to give it a name. Now, sometimes it's much easier to do once you use STV to do it, but you can also, as you get more practice, do it from this point of view. Now, the reason this is important is because if we go back and redo the ANOVA, we see, for factor 1, we go back and do the ANOVA for groups. We see, if this is correct, that when Hillary is a first person, when she's talking about women as First Lady, or when she's talking about women as Secretary of State, she's much more of an interactive arguer about women. She's interactive because she's engaged from the first person and the second person interactive, and she's reasoning, she's arguing. And inquiry is also kind of an argument showing curiosity. So here, but then she dips way down as U.S. Senator. U.S. Senator, so when she talks about women, she's really talking about a wonk about women. So the point is, here we have Secretary of, we have First Lady, and we have Secretary of State. And here we have wonk when she's U.S. Senator, okay? So that's what it seems to say, that when she's talking and giving speeches as First Lady or Secretary of State, she's making arguments interactively. She's reasoning. But when she's talking like a U.S. Senator, she's talking like a academic nerd. We might also call this wonk or nerd. Now, how do you know this? How do we actually know this could be true, or how do we actually test it? Well, we have to go to the text themselves, and we're going to do that in the next video.